All right, hello everyone, and this is just a video walkthrough of the plagiarism review exercise and review that we did during class this week. So if you missed it, I will walk you through it right here. All right, so plagiarism is taking words or information from a website and not crediting the source or quoting the language. It is also rewriting the information in your own words but not crediting the source. And it is also taking information or material from a classmate, a friend, a sibling, anybody, and not crediting the source. Basically, it is anytime you take something that belonged to somebody else and you don't credit the source. So I like to do this presentation, this review lesson here at the end of the year because I tend to get more plagiarized work here at the end of a semester than I do at the beginning of a semester. And I think it is almost entirely because people are trying to rush to turn in late work and late assignments, and they get a little bit lazy. They just stop really being as diligent as they need to be when they do their research, when they do study questions, when they write essays. And so I like to do a little review. We do this lesson at the beginning of the year, of course, so you know what my expectations are for you. And then again here at the end, just as a reminder to stay diligent. Okay, so Turnitin.com is a spectacular website and service. A lot of colleges use Turnitin.com as a plagiarism checker. They also have a lot of information and resources on Turnitin.com in terms of helping people avoid plagiarism and find ways to combat it. So find ways to avoid it. So these are a few different types of plagiarism that have been identified by Turnitin.com. The first type being the most common, the clone, submitting another's work word for word as one's own. This is just when you copy and paste material from a website straight over onto your paper. This is the most common, hands down. This is from an actual student essay that was turned into me many years ago. I don't even remember who did it. After flunking out of the McBurney School near his home in New York's Upper West Side. So the problem with this clip from a student essay is that it is word for word from biography.com. The student offender just copied and pasted it right into their essay. They didn't give me a in-text citation. They didn't give me quotes. They didn't give me a works cited. Nothing. They just copied and pasted. Easily the most common type of plagiarism. The find and replace is pretty common. Changing keywords but retaining the essential content of the source. So here is an example from a student essay, again from a few years back. The student was writing about Stephen King. Another example of symbolism in King's novel was for Jack. The clock is typical of his contention with George Hatfield, the battle which loses him his employment and pushes him towards the Overlook. George, an understudy on Jack's level-headed discussion group. All right, so as the teacher in this situation, this is what caught me. This is the part that got me. I was like, an understudy on a level-headed discussion group. What is that? What are they talking about? And the problem is that similar to the clone, this person had copied and pasted a passage into their essay, but instead of honestly paraphrasing it, putting it in their own words and rewriting it so it sounded like them, and including the in-text citation, the and is important there. This student from many years back had simply taken keywords out and then found a synonym, a word that means the same but is different, and then just plucked it out and put it back into the paragraph without actually paraphrasing. The result kind of comes out sounding like that refrigerator magnet poetry. You know, it makes sense, kind of, but it also kind of doesn't. So, an understudy on Jack's level-headed discussion group should have read a student in Jack's debate club. All right, so understudy is not a very good synonym for student, and level-headed discussion group is not a very good synonym for debate club, right? There's a lot of problems with this. One problem is that it's not sufficient paraphrasing. It has to sound like you, the whole thing, every single word you need to rewrite so it is you that's speaking, not the original author, and you need to give me the in-text citation. The other problem with this is that sometimes synonyms don't quite mean the exact same thing as the word you're going for. They have different connotations, slightly different meanings, different usages. Understudy is not a good synonym for student. I wouldn't walk into my classroom, for example, and say, "Hello, understudies." You'd all look at me like I was nuts, wouldn't you? All right, so the third type of plagiarism, as defined by Turnitin.com, is the retweet. This one's a little trickier because this is one where I can kind of see where the author of the essay or the assignment or whatever was trying. They tried, they just didn't go far enough. So, in this type of plagiarism, the person has maybe tried to paraphrase the passage, they just didn't go far enough with it. They may have provided a a citation in the works cited page, but maybe not the in-text citation. The actual student essay sample here. After leaving her boyfriend, she headed to Ghana, where a car accident injured her son. The problem with this one is that it is nearly word for word from history.com. They did do some of their own paraphrasing, and they did do the find and replace, where certain key words were plucked out and then replaced by a synonym. That's problematic because it doesn't sound like the author's voice. It sounds like the source, right? And then it sounds a little like refrigerator magnet poetry. Now, in this case, it did turn out that the author did put history.com in their works cited page at the end of the essay. Great, that's one step. The problem is they didn't give me the in-text citation or give me any kind of mention of history.com when they were writing the essay. So that is problematic in itself, and that is what really needs to be remedied here. All right, so let's take a look here. I'm going to skip through the activity that we did in class, but excuse me. We're going to skip through the activity we did in class, and we're going to go down to just a couple more points about plagiarism. All right, so the consequences of plagiarism. Now, each teacher at the high school level will probably have slightly different consequences for plagiarism, but we're all pretty uniform about it. I know here at University High School, we are working on having a uniform policy about plagiarism, and it's being developed by a number of your teachers, which means that it is incorporating all of our different policies, which we have found out were pretty much the same. So, in high school, you will definitely fail the assignment. I do not offer any kind of rewrites or revision opportunities when it comes to a plagiarized assignment. Your parent or guardian is contacted, and sometimes I can leave it at that. You failed the assignment, I called home, I can leave it there. Now, if it escalates, and it possibly could, potentially this could end up in a conference with Dean Franza and your parent or guardian. It could potentially result in the loss of privileges. Now, 12th graders, this is where it really can come home to bite you guys, because graduation privileges, walking stage, senior breakfast, prom even, oh my goodness, these are pretty severe cases when I have seen in the past 17 years of teaching a issue of plagiarism affect walking stage or prom or senior privileges. It's been pretty severe, but it has happened. Situations where people have plagiarized their final exam, for example. It could potentially result in a class change and a disruption of your schedule. If you are being really combative about the plagiarism, if you're fighting with your teacher about it, if you are really just denying that this is happening, if you're doing it repeatedly, it could come down to opting to change you to another class, which could mess up your whole schedule. Potentially, it could mean detention and other consequences at the mercy of the dean. Again, it would have to escalate pretty far for it to become a disciplinary matter. However, it could get there. Now, however bad you think these consequences at high school are, and I'm not discounting them, they do feel really severe and strict on the high school level if you're experiencing them. In college, they get much more severe. We are strict with you here in high school because when you get to college, it just gets more serious. And we do not want anybody to get to college and get themselves in trouble simply because they never realized how serious plagiarism could be. Now, as you know, I am also an adjunct professor over at Santa Monica College, and so I just took their policy on academic honesty and plagiarism, and I'm sharing it here with you. Santa Monica College's policy is pretty much standard across all colleges and universities. You won't find anything terrifically different anywhere you go. So this is on the screen right here right now is Santa Monica College's academic dishonesty conduct. These are the things that will get you in trouble. I put an arrow next to all of them that have anything to do with academic dishonesty, and you can see there's a lot, right? They take it pretty seriously. Everything from using testing aids such as calculators, tape recorders, electronic devices without permission. I mean, that would be the example would be if I told you not to use the dictionary on your vocabulary test and you had the dictionary out, right? Allowing another individual to assume one's identity for the purpose of satisfying course requirements. So you guys probably have been reading in past months here about the number of people, the big bust they did at USC and Stanford and a bunch of different schools where people were paying students to go in and take the test for their kids, right? They had people going in with false IDs to take the SATs and entrance exams to get into school. Obviously, that's wrong, and people are in prison right now for it. Representing the words, ideas, or work of another as one's own, just straight up plagiarism, plagiarizing an assignment, plagiarizing an essay, doesn't matter. Changing answers on a previously scored test or assignment. This will happen sometimes. You get your test back and it's a D, and you go back through and you're like, oh, okay, I changed my answer. I added to my answer. Oh, look, Miss Havener, you didn't grade it correctly. Yeah, you can't do that. If you do that at Santa Monica College, you'll be in big trouble. If you do that at my high school classroom, you'll be in trouble. Copying or allowing another student to copy from. Yeah, so they do not differentiate at Santa Monica between the person who copied and the person who allowed them to copy. So yeah, I don't either, for that matter, in my high school classroom. So if you allow your friend to copy, you are both going to face the consequences. Giving or taking information during an examination by means including sign language, hand signals, or secret codes. So yeah, I know this one sounds kind of like very cloak and dagger, but you know, it's funny because they do this, and when you go take to really big exams like the bar exam, like the big state SATs, like the LSATs, they really will check you. You go into a big like convention area room to take the test, and they will check everything. They will check your glasses to make sure you don't have answers written on the nose rest. They will check everything. So yeah, be careful. All right. Inventing information for the purpose of completing a laboratory experiment. So you're running an experiment in the lab, you forgot to do it, you forgot to water your plant and it died, and instead of fessing up to that, you just say, oh, it grew 6 feet in one night. It was amazing, it was a miracle. Accessing or reproducing exams in any form without prior authorization. You know, in the olden days, that would have meant getting a copy of the final exam and going to the copy machine. Now, in today's world, that can simply mean taking a picture of it with your phone and texting it around. Either way, it is academic dishonesty, and you will be in big trouble. So don't do it. All right, the consequences at Santa Monica College. All college papers and assignments are run through an automatic plagiarism checker. Santa Monica College uses Turnitin.com, and it identifies material copied from the entire internet, as well as any previously published academic papers. So it's instantaneous, and it will put your paper or your assignment against the entirety of the internet, and it'll give you a percentage. As a professor, if I see a percentage of 10% or below, I'm not too worried, right? I'll look at the report and I'll see what it says, but it usually just means that people use some quotes, or maybe, you know, there's a word here or there. It's not much. Anything above that, though, I look at the report and I see exactly what's going on, and it can be problematic. All right, so the consequences if you are caught plagiarizing. The instructor may assign a failing grade to the examination, assignment, or course in which the alleged cheating or plagiarism occurred. So I am allowed to fail you for the class. If I am your professor at Santa Monica College, or anywhere at Berkeley, at Stanford, at USC, at Cal State Long Beach, anywhere, your professors are allowed to fail you for the class immediately if you are plagiarizing on any kind of assignment. I don't care if you plagiarized one sentence. I don't care. You can still be failed for the class, and there's really no recourse to this. There's nothing you can do to argue it. Also, the instructor may dismiss the student from class or activity for up to 2 class sessions. I can ask you to leave the class and not come back for up to 2 class sessions. 2 class sessions in college time is about 1 week of class. That could be deadly to your grade. And severe incidents of academic dishonesty, including but not limited to impersonation, presentation of falsified documents, stealing exams, and just repeated violations, you might be completely dismissed from college. They can kick you out of Santa Monica College, kick you out of whatever college you're in, and there's nothing you can say about it. You can be expelled from the college, and sometimes under certain circumstances, they can put a block on you reapplying to that college for 6 months, a year, however long they deem fit. It can really mess up your life, and it's very, very serious. All right, so how do you avoid it? All right, now this graphic for my students is in your MLA format folder here on the Schoology page, and you can examine it there. Cite all ideas and inspiration you get from a source. Remember, you don't just have to cite quotes and words, you also have to cite ideas and inspirations. You didn't come up with the idea that the theme of Romeo and Juliet was star-crossed lovers. You didn't come up with that. Somebody else did, so you have to give them credit. Use Intext Citations and a works cited page. People skip the Intext Citations and they say, well, I put it in the works cited page. Doesn't matter. You gotta do both. Double check passages that you are unsure of. Run them through Google search or Grammarly. Grammarly.com is a fantastic product. It has a plagiarism checker that you can use for your assignments if you do not have access to Turnitin.com. Grammarly does cost a little bit of money, but it is well worth the investment, in my opinion. Quote all language directly from a source and cite it. Cite all information from a source that you paraphrase in your own words. So whether you directly quote it or whether you paraphrase it, you have to have that in-text citation and you have to have the works cited page. All right, so how do you do in-text citations? I have some videos out there on MLA format that you might want to check out, but here's the short version. Here is the quote. I just picked some stuff from Macbeth. You do not give the cheer, the feast is sold. And in parentheses, Shakespeare 143, and then close it with the period. I could paraphrase it, put it in my own words. Macbeth doesn't act happy, people are already celebrating, but he is still sad. Again, I'm going to do the exact same citation because it still comes from page 143 in my Macbeth book. A word-for-word quote means the author's last name and page number. A word-for-word from a website means a short web address. Paraphrase of a quote or web information, same deal, either the author's last name and page number or the short web address. Now, how do you make a works cited page? Well, I like citefast.com. That's my favorite, but there's a lot of other options out there. I think Citefast is free and it's cheap and it's easy to use. You can make yourself an account. It's totally free, and then it'll save your stuff. As if you're making a big research paper, you can just keep plugging stuff into it and it'll save it for you. If you play with it for about a minute, you'll figure it out, I promise. You can see over here on the image, you just put your website or your book or your journal or whatever into the search and then hit go and you'll figure it out. It'll create a list like you see over here on the right of that graphic. Hit copy and paste and bam, look at that. You just, back in the old days, you students had to do this all on your own by hand. You didn't have any help from the wild, crazy internet. It was a terrible project, but now you don't even have to know how to do it. Just use this. All right, in closing, there's never an excuse for plagiarism. Ever, ever, ever. Teachers start discussing plagiarism way back in kindergarten when they told you not to copy your neighbor's paper or take your friend's truck or steal your neighbor's crayon. Anytime anybody has ever told you not to take something that didn't belong to you, they were talking about plagiarism. They were talking about stealing. A lot of times when I bust people for plagiarism, at the college level and the high school level, they will say, I didn't know that. Nobody ever told me what plagiarism was. I've never had that lesson. Miss Havener, you never told me what plagiarism was. I don't believe you when you say that. I just don't. I do not believe you. We know what plagiarism is. We do. You know not to steal things that aren't yours, and you know not to take words that aren't yours, and you know that you need to give credit. You know how you would feel if somebody took your work and said that they did it, right? And you know it's wrong. right? Inherently. So everybody knows, especially by the time you get yourself into high school and certainly college, that you can't just go taking work and pretending like it belongs to you. Plagiarism often happens when students rush and panic. I would rather get your work late than plagiarized material. So yeah, you rush, you panic, you're like, "Oh no, it's 3 in the morning. I'm exhausted. I have to do this." People make bad decisions when they're exhausted and they feel like they're trapped. So don't do it, right? Just let's not do it. I would rather get your work a little bit later. I would rather get bad work from you. I would rather get the wrong answer. I would rather you write me an email and say, "I don't understand number 7. Can you help me with this question? I don't understand the essay. Can you talk me through it?" I'd rather get that than get a plagiarized piece. I will help you with number 7. I will talk you through the essay. I will do whatever it takes to clear it up for you. But if you never ask the question and you never reach out for help and you go ahead and plagiarize, you have forfeited your right to get any help with it. I am not going to help you at that point. I'm not going to give you a rewrite. I'm not going to help you do it the correct way. You forfeited your right to get help from me if you went ahead and cheated instead of asking for help. I do not offer rewrites or resubmissions on plagiarized work, and there's no exceptions to that rule. Repeated acts of plagiarism cause consequences to escalate. If you don't get the lesson the first time, I don't know what to do with you, right? I don't know what to do because it's either you think I'm stupid and I won't catch you, or you don't get it, right? You just don't get it. So we have to escalate the consequences to make you get it. And finally, in closing, I do not bust you for plagiarism because I am mean. It is my job to not allow it. It is literally my job to teach you how to write well. That is my job as an English teacher. I have to teach you how to read well and write well. And if I allowed you to get away with something like plagiarism, I would not be doing my job. A doctor might find a tumor on the tip of your finger. Uh, if they don't tell you about it, they're not doing their job, right? Same thing with plagiarism. If I find a problem in your writing that's not yours, I have to tell you. It's my job to tell you. It's not because I don't like you. In fact, I'll tell you guys a little secret about teachers here. It doesn't matter if we like you, right? And I want you to take as evidence the sheer number of students I've had in 17 years of teaching that I have absolutely adored. And I just love it when they come to class. They come in my room and my day is automatically brighter. I think, what a wonderful young person. They are funny, they are witty, they are so nice to other people. They just make everybody's day better. But they completely failed my class because they never turned in any work. Yes, it happens every single year. And every single year, I end up in a conference with their moms and dads and grandparents and uncles and aunts. And I have to say the same thing. I have to say, I love your kid. They are fantastic. And if I could grade them on being a human, they get an A double plus. But unfortunately, I have to grade them on the work they turn in, so they have a fail. Yes. So if I could grade you on whether I like you, so many people would have an A plus. You have no idea. I generally like people. But even if you come in my room every day and you throw a book at my head and you have a new insult for every single day of the week, I still don't get to grade you on that either, right? I don't get to grade you if I don't like you. I grade you on the work that you turn in, right? Now, and to go even further with that, I don't pay a lot of attention to whose name is on the paper that I'm grading. It's only if I have to look up, there's a problem, there's a clarification I need to make, that I scroll up and look at your name. I'm grading you purely on your work, all right? Please remember that. A lot of times when I bust people for plagiarism, they really get combative and they really get mean. And they say, "Miss Havener, you never liked me. You're just being mean. I didn't do it. You're making this up." And I'm not, right? I take screenshots of your material. I take screenshots of the original material. And I can show them to you back to back. And at some point, you gotta just accept it. As Mark Twain would put it, sometimes you have to eat a frog. All right, guys, that's my lesson on plagiarism for anybody who missed it and really wanted to hear the sound of my voice. Please let me know if you have any questions on my policies or anything else, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you. Bye-bye.